What's up, everyone? This is kind of like a little impromptu live show. So let me know if this actually sounds good. This is a new setup I have here. And you probably noticed because it's all very, very, very dark in the background. But yeah, let me know if A, it sounds good, and B, if we're skipping any frames or if it gets really choppy or anything like that. Because I'm seeing on my broadcasting software how many dropped frames there are in the broadcast. And it's a lot. It's a whole bunch. So hopefully this isn't going to get too jumpy or anything like that. So I was thinking about doing a video kind of like talking about the progress at the new building and just kind of like what's going on here. But for some odd reason, I can't get that excited about it. I don't know why. So I decided instead just to do a live Q&A. And we can talk about, whatever you guys want to talk about. But I also just made a little makeshift video here. I'll just play this in the background. And this is just some of the more recent footage. Is it? Nope. Nope. There we go. See, I can't even do anything right now. Okay, so this is some of the progress that's been going on lately. So welcome everybody. Again, this is kind of just an impromptu thing, and we can just hang out for just a little bit. I don't know how long this stream's gonna go for, maybe just like a couple hours or something like that. It sounds great, but you have a lot of low end reflection. Makes it sound bassy in a weird way. I know exactly what you mean, and I'm not sure where that's coming from, to be perfectly honest. I've been using the same microphone now for years, and I've been using the same like Focusrite Scarlett, which is like the audio interface. But when I got this new computer and I started to listen to some of my old videos, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much bass. And this thing doesn't actually have any settings for bass or treble or anything like that. So unless I kind of tweak it in my audio converter, or I'm sorry, in my broadcasting software, let me mess with that for just a sec. Let me mess with this. Could go very poorly. I'm just warning you. This could go very, very poorly. Turn on the audio mixer. Okay. I'm not gonna mess with that anymore. I got too scared, sorry. So hopefully it's not, hold on. Let me remove this one. Remove. Okay. I don't know what that just did. So hopefully it sounds better again. So welcome everybody. Welcome Bubba, Tim Webb, SC Reefer, Haley, Robert, Casper, Austin. It's coming from the room. You need to treat the room with bass traps. It could be, but it was showing up in different recording setups and everything like that. So it's tough to say. Lots of reverb. Lots of reverb in this room. So the other thought that might be causing some kind of audio issue is basically this room is right by the street. So if there's any like big truck that rolls by, because I'm like on a state route, it's going to give off that. Yeah, you can use a Scarlett 8. You can change the audio color by using a different mic. Yeah, unfortunately, this is the only mic, unless I go to the wireless ones. And yeah, not sure. Okay, lots of reverb. You know what, let me just test it with this headphone system here real quick. Let's see what we sound like. It's gonna be DJ Than for just a little bit. What's going on in the background? Of course, I don't hear anything yet. What lighting setup did I decide on? I haven't really decided on anything, but I might mess with, I don't know, I might mess with something. Whatever you did, fixed it. Don't mess with anything anymore. Huh. I don't think I did anything. Whatever. Whatever. Okay, so yeah, long story short, in the background you're seeing some different, I don't know if you can hear that, but those are my cats fighting in the background. So I put up this green screen behind me, and both of the cats like to play. It just kind of like, because there's like a lot of cloth back there, but they kind of hate one another, so they kind of have to sort it out a little bit. Kitties, chill out. Okay, so what I was saying, I was saying how these are like the video in the background that you're seeing is just like a lot of the tanks getting put in. These are like the septic tanks. The tanks that you saw getting installed in the snow, those were like the rainwater cistern, like big giant tanks. And a lot of our progress lately has been slowed down, obviously, because of the weather. It's been just brutally cold here and a lot of snow, so a lot of the excavation stuff couldn't be done. So we just kind of been hanging out. I mean, again, this whole project is gonna take so long. I'm not too worried about any kind of like delays or anything like that. Like, it's probably gonna take a good 12 months before any of the really interesting stuff gets happening. So I guess that's also why like I'm not getting too stressed out about you know, putting up like an update video, because it's like, if you've seen a warehouse get constructed, it kind of looks like that. Okay, what is it they're putting into the ground? Yeah, so these are septic tanks just for the bathrooms and stuff. Sherelle, I'm making my first trip to Osaka next week. I was really excited until you said the reefing scene is so small. Yeah, it's surprisingly small. However, I think that Osaka has a very famous local pet store. I think it's called Harbor Aquatics or something like that. They kind of specialize, at least from what I've seen, in a lot of the really rare fish and whatnot. So, like they've had peppermint angels and stuff like that. So I would check out that store to see what that's all about, because it might be worth it. I mean, that's kind of like one of the more famous stores. And Osaka also has like one of the two really big aquariums in Japan. Obviously, the biggest aquarium and probably the nicest is in Okinawa, but Osaka has the second biggest, and I think Tokyo has the third. So you can probably check that out. It's like, yeah, those cats are scrapping. Yep. So my cats, they fight all the time, constantly. So I'm used to it. They don't like each other. They never did. Austin, how did you get into reefing and why? Long story short, growing up, I was never allowed to have dogs or cats like I do now. So I got into fish, and what started with goldfish turned into tropical fish later, turned into saltwater fish, eventually into saltwater corals. And by the time that I was in college, I had a very nice, thriving 120 something gallon reef, and decided to build like an entire business around growing coral. And going from that step to actually making a company, it's a long and winding road to get to that. But that's kind of how it all started. It's just been a hobby of mine for a very long time. Casper Myers, that suit is cut right, but you wear it loose. It's because of the way I'm sitting, because it's not buttoned. Because if I button it, I mean, you really should. Like this is like a tailored suit. So like, if I button it, I mean, it's gonna fit just perfectly. But just the way that I slouch and stuff in my own chair, and I'm fat, so this button is gonna fly off if I just leave it buttoned. So yeah, I'm wearing it loose and open right now. So yeah, so okay, what's in the background now? You can see the flooring. We're putting in some radiant heat floor, so you can see all the different like manifolds with the pipes that carry the hot water to all the parts of the concrete. And you'll see later, you know, all of this is going to get buried under about 6 inches of concrete. No, like it's funny that you say that I wear it loose because this thing is the exact op. It's practically tight. It's pretty. It's not something I'd just choose to throw a football around in. Let's just say. When is a good when is a good time to add first coral? Fish already. Tank water quality is good. Light, everything. Please advise. If your fish are already doing well, and assuming that your tank is already cycled, you could probably get started in just a couple weeks, really. I mean, the corals, especially beginner corals, aren't that bad when it comes to how they react to new aquariums. It'll be certain fish, certain corals like the SPS that are going to be, I guess, more appreciative of an aged system. So if your thing is like Acropora, for example, you really should wait like a few months. And some people are like really conservative. They wait over 6 months to about a year. Are you running a wood burner for water heat? No, we're running they're gas furnaces. So not sure how that all tracks, but yep, it's it's a unit made by Lochnavar. In the past, we used a Japanese company called Renai, but yeah, we're going with a different unit for this one. And the furnaces that we're going to be using, the boilers to heat these water coils and everything, are high enough capacity that we can run another set of coils underground to the greenhouse and have all of those tanks controlled by all the equipment in the new building. I'm jealous, Dwight Kirby. I'm jealous, lol, but I'd love to see you make this next big step with your company. Thanks. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I think that there's certain things that about doing aquaculture that you just simply need square footage for, because there's certain corals that we would really like to grow out long term, and we just either have run out of room to grow those, or they grow slow enough that if we don't dedicate a lot of space to them, we'll eventually just sell out. And if we sell out of them, obviously we can't just try to continue growing that. It just doesn't catch up fast enough. So we kind of have to hit this careful balance between having enough stock to propagate stuff that we can sell regularly, or just selling it all out and just kind of having to start over. And then that takes a really long time then to get to something comfortable again. But then again, you don't want to be so inundated with certain types of corals, because like right now there are types of corals that are just growing like crazy that we just simply need to get rid of. And we're actually working on a new website slowly. But I'm thinking about offering, like, because I know that many of my followers, they're starting to do some basement setups and things like that. And we don't do wholesale, but for certain corals, we might just offer like a multi-pack where here's like 50 of these things. This will get your farm started, sort of thing. But it's really more for like the aquaculture for-profit side of things. We're considering doing something like that just because we need to move tons of a certain few varieties of corals. Okay. Yeah, so when it comes to lighting, I see some conversations regarding lighting. We haven't fully decided on the tanks yet, but a lot of people are recommending that I go away from my T5s, my beloved T5s, and go with LED just for the electricity alone. Just because the amount of square footage of tanks that I'm gonna have that I would have to put lights over, the energy budget for this place is gonna be pretty insane. And lately, I would have to say that some of the LED fixtures I don't completely hate. So, well, I'm going to keep an open mind, let's just say. Austin, what is your favorite LED for low light coral and or highlight? If I had to pick any fixture right now, I think that Gen 4 Radions tend to have very favorable ratings. There's some experimental LEDs they have in Japan that I saw when I was on vacation there. Those looked really interesting. But when you're talking about low light coral, pretty much any fixture is going to provide enough par for a low light coral, but you want to stick with ones that have some decent spectrum to it, because what you want to avoid is a really limited spectrum LED that just ends up coloring everything down. And I can't think of the brand right now, but I had several of these units, and for whatever reason, stuff in those particular tanks just tended to look a little bit less than great, let's just say. Casper, my diamond saw kicks the blade often. Any advice? It's a standard coral saw. So standard coral saw, which unit are we talking about? Are we talking about a Griffin, or are we talking about a... who's bugging me? What's the other one? There's a Griffin and there's an inland saw. And I guess it doesn't really matter. Both of those, the saw blades just come and just pop off all the time. What did we do? Like, I haven't messed with our saw in a while. But the way that the wheels balance, you kind of... So instead of having it just angled completely this way, I kind of even angle it slightly so that it... and it's not necessarily great for the blade, but it kind of angles in so that the blade is more likely to stay on, I guess. Mandrake fernflower. Are you going to try to grow out the tubipora? Going to try. It's very slow. That's what I meant. Excuse me. There's certain corals that just take a long time to grow out. So you either need to be just super ultra patient, or you need to have a large enough area dedicated to them so that the new growth stuff can be sold off. Will you maintain the appointment-only sales approach with the new facility? Yes, definitely. Yeah, like, unfortunately, when it comes to like local visits, it's going to be more trending towards less local visit opportunities than being a full-on open store. There's just so much work that actually has to happen here. Trevor, any advice for a basement wholesale setup? That's gonna be tough, just because of the amount of kind of volume that you'd have to dedicate to a wholesale setup. So a lot of times people, I mean, obviously the internet has made the world a very small place. You can get into contact with wholesalers. The problem is when you open up a, when I say wholesale, I mean like an importer. So you can contact somebody overseas or in Indo or Australia directly, and you guys can work out the paperwork, work out all the logistics to get these corals from overseas. Here's the thing. If you're a small player in that world, you're going to get the worst coral. Period, end of story. Because some of their other customers are filling 747s full of coral, okay? And they're going to get the best stuff. And you're simply not going to have the volume necessary to even get on their mental radar for them to send you anything that's not garbage. So right off the bat, you're kind of behind the 8 ball there. And for you to take in larger shipments, you're going to need a lot of space to put all these corals. Ignoring, for example, ignoring the entire big thing of having to then sell those corals. Ugh, right? So what's my point in all that? It's going to need to be big, and oftentimes basements aren't necessarily great to accommodate huge amounts of water volume, meaning you have to really double down on everything you need, just to ventilate all that. You have to make sure that like whatever this facility is, it doesn't just eat your house. Because there was a guy in Michigan who had set up a 4,000-gallon home aquarium, and he had to tear it down because he was evaporating 100 gallons per day directly into his walls. Miguel Perez, calm down, breathe, you sound stressed, everything will be okay. So it's funny that you say that, because I am stressed out right now. The last 2 weeks have been so cold and crummy, and And you may or may not know if you ship with FedEx, but FedEx has all kinds of weather-related delays, and that has messed me up so big time, so big time. I'm like, there's 2 whole weeks of orders that I have to like fix in some way, whether it's like refunds, replacements, and all this stuff, because FedEx's whole system got so screwed last week and the week before. Eco Marines looks great, Dan. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Casper, $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Casper. Appreciate it. Austin, can I use a tile wet saw for fragging coral, or will tear the structure too much? It will tear the structure too much. Wet saws are very thick, and you're basically going to end up like ripping through like dozens of large polyps in order to get that cut. Now, if you were just to be cutting like live rock, if you just wanted to be, slicing down, what is it called? Just slicing down like huge sections of live rock from the coral, like if you're doing a lot of importing and stuff, you could use a tile saw, but a better device for that is a ring saw. And I don't know the company that makes the ring saw, but they're roughly like $1,200, but they do like a really, really good job. I mean, I think that somebody was telling me that Walt Smith had several of these ring saws, and they just have like salt water pumping through them because they have like a basin of salt water, and they just constantly just run salt water through these things, and they survive. CJ's Aquarium. I'll be up there next weekend. I'd love to come see that setup. Sure. Send me an email and we'll get something on the calendar. For scheduling visits, what's the spending limit? There's no spending limit. So some people come in here, don't see anything that they like, and they take off. It's not a big deal. So no, there's no door fee of, unless you're spending $500, I'm not going to let you in. There's none of that. Mandrake Fernflower. Best to just open a local shop in your basement instead of wholesale. Maybe. Then again, one of our local importers here started in his basement and is now really, 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 really big. So you have to start somewhere. DC Reef, for more of the story, don't open a coral business, buy from Tidal Gardens. Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. Trevor, sorry for setting up an aquaculture wholesale setup for local stores. I think that what I would recommend is find out how much they can handle in terms of volume to be your customer, because certain stores, at least in this area, they're not a lot bigger than a decent sized hobbyist. So that's kind of like my I guess my little gray area when it comes to wholesale versus retail. There's a lot of blending between those two groups that goes on. So like, what is wholesale exactly? I mean, is it somebody that has a tank maintenance company and is just, buying some coral for their clientele? Is it a local pet store that has 2 tanks set aside for coral? I mean, at that point, like Rico, for example, has more than that going on, and he's like a regular hobbyist. Or Will, like one of my other customers. I mean, they're going to buy way more than a typical store in this area. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to figure out for yourself in your geography, like what makes sense, because sometimes like these stores can't even purchase the volume that's necessary to even keep you afloat. So just kind of keep that in mind, I guess. All right, Haley. Thanks for hopping in. I'll talk to you later. I'll probably see you on another stream at some point. But thanks. Yeah, the build is going well. How's it going, Dave's Nanotanks? So, okay, just in chat, let me know, am I still getting a reverb? Are you guys still getting a reverb in the audio? Because I have no idea why it was doing that at all. So if you could just let me know, that'd be great. Send me some of your free care Pavona, please. We never see it in the UK. From what I understand, it's very difficult to get corals from here to the UK. I was talking to Eco Marines about that. We're kind of just like spitballing some stuff back and forth. But I guess like um, there's some issues with CITES hard coral quotas coming out of the US or something like that. So could be tough. Okay, audio is fine. So weird. All I did was turn on my Bluetooth headset and all of a sudden like the audio clears up. Weird. Weird. So anyway. Oh yeah, Than, looking forward to the Hot Ones Tidal Gardens edition if you're still going to do it for... Dude. Let me tell you. I have like since I don't know what I was talking. It was on a Michael Aaron's chat, right? Where I just kind of hijacked it talking about hot sauces. I've gone completely nuts. I'll just restart this video here just for the folks that hadn't seen the beginning. So I've gotten on this hot sauce kick where it's all started with this other YouTube channel called Hot Ones that DC Reefers making reference to. And it's basically like an interview show where they have progressively hotter and hotter and hotter wings. The host eats the wing, asks the question, the guest eats the wing and answers. And it starts off like pretty mild. Then you get into like some of the habaneros, and those get a little hotter. But towards the end, it's like these death peppers. And I've been so into all these different types of hot wings and hot wing sauces. And I've tried the Last Dab. I actually have a full bottle. And to put it into perspective, like they measure pepper hotness by Scoville units. So like a jalapeno is about 4,000 to 8,000 Scoville units. Once you get into the crazy stuff like Moruga scorpion, like Trinidad scorpions and stuff like that, those are like 1 million something Scoville. And then you get into like Carolina Reapers, which are like 2 million Scoville. And this sauce made by Hot Ones called the Last Dab is made by a special pepper called Pepper X. It's like the hottest pepper in the world, and it's 3 million Scoville. So it's like it's some pretty rough stuff, but I actually like the flavor. Moon fruit. Do you know any websites to ID corals? In Germany, corals usually don't have names to them. That's a toughie. You might want to try one of two places I can think of, like either an online message board, and sometimes the online message board will have a specific, like a forum all dedicated to a certain kind of coral, so like a zoanthid identification forum or something like that. You can try something like that. You might also try like Facebook, like Facebook groups. Now, I don't love Facebook groups for like advice on stuff, but they might have some familiarity with like different names, especially if, again, you find the right group that's talking about that type of coral. Because I know that there's like some that are dedicated to mushrooms, some that are dedicated to zoanthids, things like that. So that's something you can check in on. Let's see. Than, is there a business address I can do business communication through? I represent a local buyer and want to purchase at a wholesale level. Need new stock. Again, I'm not the greatest for wholesale volume, but you can email me directly through my site, unless you're asking about somebody else that I don't know. So Miguel, will you expand now that you've expanded the warehouse? Will you expand to Europe? We were talking about it. I need to. There's the logistics. It's not the coral. It's like the logistics. So Laura, I'm gonna make you a moderator, if for no other reason. Add moderator. Okay, so Eco Marines is now a moderator. So at least that way I won't miss you if you post something. Dominic, yeah, I too have the Last Dab and it killed me. What's insane is I really like it. I actually like it. And I find that it's like one of the most versatile sauces because it turns out that Carolina Reaper and Carolina Reaper derivatives are delicious. It's a delicious tasting pepper that's very versatile. It's just too damn hot. Okay. Real quick, Casper Myers. That's a big sewage system. Those aren't sewage tanks. The ones that I just showed you there, those are rainwater collection cisterns. So the water that comes off of the roof will be directed down into some pre-filters and then into that, and we're going to be using that to make our reverse osmosis water. I was going to say our RO, and it turned into a tongue twister, so reverse osmosis water. The other thing that we're going to be doing is running some geothermal cooling using the water that's in there. Let's see. DJ, any scheduled surprise visitors for tomorrow? No, and I don't expect any. It's kind of cold and awful here. Let's see. Alfaf Anis, I'm sorry if I messed up your name. What's your opinion on no water changes? I don't like it. Will dosing calcium, alkalinity, magnesium with other trace elements be sufficient to maintain a tank with no water change? You also have to deal with removing some pollutants that build up. You kind of have to deal with some phosphate nitrate issues occasionally, buildup of heavy metals, things like that. I'm a big proponent of water changes. I think that the benefits of doing water changes so greatly outweighs the negative that, yeah, I don't strive to do the no water change thing. And this is coming from somebody that literally buys palletfuls of salt. Type 40, thank you so much for the £2 donation. Appreciate it, man. Type 40 has been a very, very consistent donor, so thank you so much. Is the live sale tomorrow still on? Yes, and I haven't even gone through to promote that, but yes, tomorrow, starting at 2 p.m. my time, Eastern Standard, we'll be doing our live show. We've picked out about 240 something corals, something like that, so it'll be a good time. And in fairness, like our SPS systems right now are looking just great. So if you're looking for some SPS, there's definitely going to be some nicer stuff that's colored up very nicely. Snow and poo tanks. So yeah, Casper, these are the poo tanks. These are the septic tanks going in. Now, what's crazy? Okay, you see this giant building getting put in. All of the associated lines and everything like that are necessary. These poo tanks are by far the biggest regulatory hurdle to anything. Like, we almost weren't able to have bathrooms in this new building because of how difficult it was to get septic in. They had to do like different tests of different locations on the property, and we were fully expecting not to get approved. But they happened to find one small section of the property that they could, that the soil was right to have a septic tank. So we're very lucky there, because if we didn't have that, either we don't have bathrooms, or we would have to go to the EPA and they would have to design for us a surface discharge system, which I believe is another word for a full-on wastewater treatment facility that could cost, I don't know, $100,000, and the approval process might be like 24 months. So long story short, we wouldn't have had bathrooms. So luckily they did find something for the septic. Yeah, perk tests are a pain, I guess, but we got lucky because just avoiding the whole federal EPA side of things probably saved us everything. And yeah, I don't know why I'm talking so fast. I think it might be like either the tea that I just drank or something. It might have just been loaded with caffeine. I'm talking way faster than I usually do. How much to have the corals changed this winter? Oh, how much have the corals changed this winter? Generally speaking, corals in the wintertime have the best color, absolute best color. And really, I think it's that the sunlight, especially in the summertime, it's just too much. It's too long in the sky. It's the wrong color temperature being so shallow, because our tanks are about 12 inches deep. So a lot of the corals don't like it. How much salt do you go through in a month? I don't know. I don't want to know. All I know is that that our salt provider loves us because we buy so much salt. I mean, they send trucks. They send trucks of salt to us fairly frequently. So, and it's to the point where like we sometimes have trouble storing the salt whenever we get it delivered. But I will be doing a salt specific video pretty soon for them. It's going to be a paid sponsorship, guys. I've sold out. I've sold out to my salt supplier of many years. And I can honestly say I like their salt. Austin, I tried no water changes and I really regret it. I just don't think that it works for everybody. I think to do a no water change system, a whole bunch has to go right. And a lot of people just don't have that luxury. I mean, like we're constantly having to jump through all kinds of like hurdles just that get thrown in our way. It's like, oh no, something else is messed up. Oh no, something else got thrown out of balance. Oh no, such and such caused an entire tank crash. So yeah, I'm guessing that that's more along the experience that a lot of people have in this hobby rather than having like a rock solid system that can handle just no water changes. Okay, Type 40's got to take off. Thanks again for the super chat, and I will hopefully see you tomorrow. And hey, what's up, Rico's Reef? That's Rico's Reef from Dayton. How's it going? Meredith. Yeah, it's funny that you're talking about hot peppers and I came here for coral. I grow 200 varieties of hot peppers. There you go. During the summer, reef in the winter. Like we were thinking about growing some peppers here. It's just we just run out of like, mental bandwidth. There's only so many projects you can take on. But like one of my employees, Ben, you'll probably see him on chat tomorrow or something. But he and I both are just on this like masochistic quest towards hot peppers. And he's like, we should grow our own peppers. I'm like, we don't have time to grow our own peppers. Like, there's no time to do any of this stuff. But yeah, it'd be cool to be able to do that. Merfolk MTG, do you think you'll ever get into more actively selling fish and clams? Maybe clams. We'll try it again. We failed every single time we've tried. We failed. We might. Fish, kind of unlikely. The sort of facility that goes into doing fish is very different than what we do. Never say never, but it's not looking like it's in the plans, I'm afraid. Andrew Deutsch, will you spray foam everything? It will really help with the energy bills. Oh my gosh. Like, so, okay, if you're looking at this in the background right now, we're going to be putting in insulation. To my chagrin, I'm too poor to put in what I want. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting in like regular bat insulation, then putting in a few different layers of like vapor barriers and stuff like that to make sure that like any of the humidity doesn't get into there from, from our tanks and stuff like that. Ideally, we should be using like closed cell foam that gets shot in there. It's a higher R value and it doesn't let water in. So you're never at risk of your insulation getting wet. I asked our builder and he quoted me an astronomically high price. I use that word astronomical a lot. Let's just say the upcharge from the insulation that we're already paid for would have been another $50,000 just because of the scale of our building. So yes, I would love to have done like a closed cell polyurethane foam like in the walls. And that would have been like a great peace of mind. I'd get like about R20 something in the walls. It'd be like great for energy. I don't got 50 grand, guys. I'm sorry. That's like one of the things that that kind of sucks. Well, it doesn't suck. I mean, it's fine. It's just, if this was cost no object, that's probably what I would do, but unfortunately it's not cost no object. Josh Stottlemyre, in-floor heating, yes. Yes, you can. In an earlier part, you could actually see the tubes. You can kind of see the tubes underneath the metal mesh there. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of that. Who did you use for salt, Austin? Who do we use? We use Omega C. We use their Reef blend. Michael, you should take sponsors. You're in business to make money. Do something you enjoy. Yeah, and the thing about like taking sponsors is like, so we get asked to do sponsorships. It's not like nobody's ever nobody's ever approached us. We have been approached before. In some cases, the deal just didn't work out. In other times, it's like I just don't use the product, and it's not even so much of an ethical thing for me, but it's like I don't even feel comfortable talking about the product because, I mean, it would sound like I was reading from a spec sheet. And you don't want to sound like you're reading from a spec sheet because anybody could have just read that spec sheet, right? And on top of that, it's like, yeah, it'd be better if I actually used this and really liked it, yada yada yada. So we've said no a lot, but I did say yes to the salt company because we've used them now exclusively for 5 years. I'm definitely okay promoting their product. So check out Omega C, check out their Reef blend. And I'll be doing a video. Okay, moonfruit. I went 9 years without pests in my reef. Now acropore eating flatworms showed up. Do you recommend cutting frags, plugs, bases of acros and corals? Okay, here's the thing. And it's an interesting idea that's kind of gotten more popular, I guess, in like the last few months of people talking about it. But it's this idea that by cutting off the base and like getting rid of like the little bit of live rock that's at the bottom of a colony and just kind of like just sticking with just the fresh coral and gluing it onto a new substrate as a method to reduce pests. It might be somewhat helpful to do that. On the other hand, if it's a coral pest that you're trying to avoid, the pest is going to be on the coral. It's not just randomly hanging out at the base of the live rock or whatever. It's on the coral. Acropore eating flatworms lay eggs on the coral. They live on the coral. So in that sense, no, not really. Same sort of thing with Montipore eating nudibranchs. They're going to be on the coral. And yeah, flatworms, nudies, like the stuff that you really kind of have to worry about, it's a bit of a mess. So, and dipping, by the way, doesn't really help in that situation. What I did find that's helpful is to go heavy on predators, and I kind of approve of like a shotgun approach to that, where try a couple of different types of damsels, try a couple of different types of wrasses, things like that. Maybe even a pipefish, a dragon-faced pipefish, if you're having issues with like red bugs, for example, on acros. Yeah, because like when it comes to like dipping and stuff, dipping unfortunately doesn't take care of everything, and the stuff that gets past dipping is the stuff you really have to worry about. So go heavy on the predation. Andrew Deutsch, Ben is a great guy. Thanks, I'm sure he appreciates that. Treats me like a king every time I stop by. Oh, that's great. I'm glad people like my hirees. Watching that floor being laid is pretty cool. Wonder what happens if one of them leaks. Okay, so while they're installing it, it's kind of interesting because those pipes are pressurized to 50 psi. If those guys pouring the concrete mess up and damage one of those pipes, it basically causes a concrete explosion right there. They have to stop the pour and fix it. So I know that like in the ground right now, there are no leaks. In the future, if there's a leak, kind of screwed. But it's unlikely. Atalax, hello Than. Will you think about putting a live cam that users can watch your beautiful farm in the future? Possibly, but I'd have to think about that just because Tidal Gardens is a hostile work environment, and I would hate for there to be a lot of evidence of that the world can just see. Poor Ben. Well, actually, speaking of hostile work environment, you know it's a hostile work environment when everybody here is being pressured to eat hot peppers by somebody in charge. Dwight Kirby just came back from China, and the marine hobby is so crazy over there. Lots of cool setups, way ahead in some of the products they have. That's kind of interesting. I've got one person that I follow that's living in China. His YouTube channel is Jayo Nation, and one of the reasons how he even got started into YouTube was that he liked the Tidal Gardens channel and decided to do like a daily vlog. And back when he started, he actually had a reef tank in his office, and so he had some reef related content on that channel. And yeah, he's friends with like a lot of like movers and shakers when it comes to like the Chinese manufacturing industry, and he goes to their shops and checks out, you know, their R&D for their new like skimmers and reactors and things like that. It's kind of interesting. The Breaker. Hey Than, I just purchased a piece of Green Seasons Greetings Montipora. Within a few days, it developed a purple patch. Should I be worried? I personally would not be. A lot of times, especially with SPS, you get a lot of color change when you just introduce it to new chemistry, new lighting. A lot of corals that we get sometimes are like monochromatic. They're either like purple or green, and then when we propagate them, all of their new polyps are completely different colors. So sometimes just new growth takes on different colors. Austin, what's your opinion on fox faces for green hair algae? They don't love green hair algae. Not a lot of things like green hair algae, but in general, if it's in small enough doses, fox faces will eat it. Have the video cam sponsored. Yeah. That'd be interesting. Yvonne, once the building is finished, will you run aquaforest or any low nutrient method in one of your systems from the start? Unlikely, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. It doesn't kind of jive just with my philosophy of reef keeping, and just I know that like the way that our systems are going to be, they're not going to have a lot of tolerance for change, or I should say I need them to have a lot more tolerance for change. And those types of systems, I tend to think that if some little thing goes wrong, it goes really wrong, and I can't jeopardize like 1,000 gallons worth of really nice SPS for that sort of thing. Reefer Madness. Do you believe Asterina stars should be eliminated? I've seen many tanks that are gorgeous, have zoas and pallies and huge population of Asterinas. I'm neither here nor there on that, because if you get like, for example, a harlequin shrimp, it'll eat all those Asterina stars, no problem. Sometimes they actually start eating coral. Like, I wonder if I can show you guys something. I probably can't. That's too bad. I don't know, maybe I can. No, I can't. Sorry. Like the Asterinas that we have, most of them are harmless. Some of ours eat Poecilopora. And we have so many Poecilopora that I just don't care. I just let them eat them. Because actually the coral grows faster than the starfish can eat them. I know it's weird. But yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a good idea to remove those that you catch red-handed on top of the coral eating them. You probably should, remove those. And you can just like physically remove them by hand. Yeah, William, Matt is awesome. Jayo, yeah, he does like the whole like daily vlog thing. And his editing is so next level to me. Like, I know there's a lot of good editors on YouTube. I get that. Like, just even in the hobby, like Coralfish 12G does a great job editing. But the stuff that Matt does, basically every single day after he's done riding a bike all across Asia every day, that blows my mind. The way he works in drone footage and everything like that. I'm like, dude, I agonize over like my crappy editing, and I can't even imagine like what it takes to do that daily. It's bonkers to me. Like, he's so talented. And you know what the funny thing about Matt from Jayo Nation is, like, he's kind of local to me. Like, he's from Detroit, Michigan. So you know, a lot of my friends live in Michigan, and you know, one time he came back for the holidays, and I went up there. So we were in both in Detroit, couldn't figure out a way to get together and meet for the first time. Fast forward into basically like a few months ago, and I'm in Japan. I'm in Himeji. Is it Meiji Castle in Himeji? I forget. But once I got back from Japan, I was like, you know, editing my videos, and then I see his video where he's at that same castle at roughly the same time that I was there. So it was like we missed each other again, dude. So I don't know. One day I'll meet Matt in person. We'll hang out and talk. But yeah, it's like we've been trying to like get together for years. Just hasn't worked out. David Park, do you have tips on controlling turf algae? I do, but you're probably not going to like my answer to that. I think the best way to handle turf algae is to take the rocks out and let the rocks with the turf algae just die. Just put them outside, kill them. Because like once turf algae gets entrenched like that, it's really difficult to find anything that's going to eat them or control them at that point. Starving them out for nutrients isn't going to be really fruitful. I mean, you can try that. I mean, I guess that's always like the root, right? It's a excess nutrient issue. But once they get cemented in there, even if you drop like the nutrient load to, let's say, basically zero, it's getting nutrient from the rock itself. So I would probably take some extra time and rotate rocks out and new rocks in. Brian, what are the boxes being buried in the ground? The ones you're seeing right here that are being put in the ground in this blizzard are rainwater collection cisterns. Each of those are 5,000 gallons. And so you'll see like this little pipe connecting the two to make a total of 10,000 gallons. So that was basically sized to the square footage of the new building. So the downspouts from the new building are going to feed into this stuff here. And then there's going to be a pump in there that's going to send the water back to the new building, at which time it's going to have to go through a full set of filtration to become potable. So there's like UV sterilization and all that stuff that goes on. Yeah, and actually I didn't catch video of this because it was like towards the end of the day, but these big giant concrete things will actually float. So because of the groundwater. So in this weather, they had to bring a water truck and fill these guys up with about 2,000 gallons apiece. Yeah, fresh water soaked them for about a month. Yeah, I mean, obviously the fresh water that's in there, we're going to be dumping out and cycling through. Yeah, I mean, so we have wells on the property. That's how we get all of our water. And so our cost of water isn't that much. The problem is well water, especially in my location, really sucks. It has a TDS of about 1,000, and it's just brutal on all our filtration and everything like that, just to make it a TDS of 0 for salt mixing. So long story short, just starting with rainwater is going to be a huge upgrade. That, and we want to do geothermal with it. So in the summertime, if we want to cool down the tanks, I want to just open a few valves and have like cold water go through coils and then back into the cistern. So it's basically acting as a heat exchange, because the water that's going to sit in the cistern probably going to be closer to 60 degrees. And so just by running water in a closed coil and then going right back into the cistern, we'll just suck out all the heat from our systems, our reef aquarium systems, I should say. We do something similar at the greenhouse, but we shouldn't have. And that caused like a problem this particular winter, because you don't want to use the heat coils and cold coils being the same thing. You really should have two separate ones, because the heating coils shouldn't have new water introduced into them. And the cold coils doesn't really matter, but the heating coils, you don't want that to happen. And because I was doing that, it grew like bacteria in there, and it was starting to make like film that was blocking up our heater and stuff. So that was very bad. Will Ben have to go down there to maintain the pump? You know, we were joking about that, but it's like, you know, we could hide all these dead bodies in there and no one will ever know. We're just really morbid here. What's the plumbing situation? Will most of the pipes for the tanks be underground or above ground? Most of the pipes are going to be above ground. In fact, the way that I'm thinking is like the returns. So you know how like, well, is that even true? I lost track of like what we're going to be doing in terms of plumbing. When it comes to just the tank plumbing, like, you know, overflow and then a return pump, that's going to look fairly normal. When it comes to doing like top off water and things like that, that is going to be basically coming overhead and straight down. And so we're just going to have some knobs and stuff like that that we can just turn on and off whenever we feel like. Fishy Snowman, hey, are we going to have a summer get-together? Yes, we should. There's no plans for it yet, but I figured like it's going to be more towards the end of summer. Oh, freshwater soak them for a month. I meant the algae rock. Okay. Yeah, that works too. You could soak them, or just leave them outside. Either way. But here's another thing. You should freshwater soak those tanks also, because the concrete leaches stuff. Austin, what brand are you using for your RODI? Haven't fully decided yet. In the past, we've always used SpectraPure, and SpectraPure makes a 2,000 gallon per day system. We're currently using their 1,000 gallon per day system, and that's fine. Dump a bucket of Lysol into the system, breaks down the biofilm. Yeah, we were using bleach. We bleached our pipes, and so we add in fresh bleach every few days. And that has worked. Basically, when we're using like the release valve just to like pump out all the water really fast, we're getting what looked like eels coming out of the pipe. It's really gross for a month. Have you ever thought about doing a big 2,000 gallon aquarium like the King of DIY but saltwater? Something about massive SPS colonies entices me. We are planning to have a show tank. The dimensions are still up for consideration. It might be like a 12-foot tank, because so you see the distance between these posts. They are about 14 feet apart. So yeah, we might have a tank that basically goes between two of these posts that'll act as a show tank. Ruben, I live in Queens, New York, and my water TDS is 35. Yeah, like New York has really good, has a really good water system, and you pay for that with your tax money. But that's good. You actually get something for your tax money. But yeah, I know that New York has really good water. You know who has like really good water is Kyoto, Japan. Like there's a lot of sake breweries there that we hit up. And every single one of them is kind of like boasting about how good their water is, because the ground supply of water in Kyoto is like ridiculous. And they just have like just open wells, you can just like sample the water. It's legit crazy delicious. And I'm describing water as being crazy delicious, but it's like so neutral. It has just the right amount of like minerals and flavor, and it's like some of the best water I've ever even come across. I can't drink the water that comes out of my well. Period. End of story. Can't even do it. It's like, oh, I'm drinking blood. CJ, what inspired you to run your building like this? Seems like this is one of a kind. I don't know if it's one of a kind. I mean, I wanted to do a traditional building rather than a greenhouse for this next step, because a lot of the stuff that my decision making to go into a greenhouse was made back in a time when, I mean, LEDs didn't even exist. Like a lot of stuff didn't exist. So just kind of revisiting that, and just to have something different. I mean, some things do really well out at the greenhouse, and some things would benefit from a much more controlled environment. So we're just building that controlled environment. OD's Fish Room. Wow, this looks like $1 million operation. Congrats. Thank you. Hopefully it won't actually be $1 million, because that's going to suck to pay for. Not looking forward to that bill. But it's going to be a lot. Like I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like we're just kind of going really, really, really slowly and smoothly, and just seeing where we end up, because there's not a whole lot of business planning going on in this. It's just something that we wanted, and we just started it. And hopefully we're not going to take too many shortcuts. We had to take a couple just because of the cost of certain things. But I think that once the actual building is done, when we're actually talking about the aquarium systems themselves, I don't think I'm going to make too many compromises. I'm going to be going with all glass tanks, all custom. It's going to be nice. What type of wall do you use? Oh, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your username. So the wall itself is made by something called Smart Panel. It's like this composite that's kind of like plywood, but I think it has some other stuff going on. And it has one side that's kind of like environmentally sealed and primed. And so it's actually used as an exterior surface for like warehouses and stuff, and we're using it on the interior. So I'm less concerned about it getting wet or dealing with humidity, because this is a siding essentially that's designed to get rained on and get snowed on and everything. So it's a lot. It's pretty rugged, and on top of that, I'm thinking about painting all of it with like a heavy gloss, just to make it like that much more water resistant. Austin, do you know of any RODI machines that don't waste massive amounts of water? I think the best you can really do is like a 1-to-1 ratio. And in order to do that, you'll need to find one that has like a recirculating pump that takes the pressure of the system up to about 100 psi. Once you're around 100 psi of pressure is when you get to this 1-to-1 waste ratio. And oftentimes it's only for like the larger capacity ones, like 500 gallons per day and above, that has one of these recirculating pumps. Brian, will you have tanks on the second level? No, there's going to be no tanks on the second level. Second level is going to be like for more businessy activities. That and like, you know how water spills. It's going to be a disaster. So, I mean, like on the ground floor, I don't care if there's a spill. There's floor drains and stuff. But upstairs, not so much. And just the weight of everything. CJ, are any of the construction workers reefers? No. Do they understand from a hobby level how this building will work? No, not really. However, these specific contractors, they built somebody else's coral farm just before working on this one. So they had some familiarity with this sort of thing. How many yards? Ari did that. How many yards of concrete did they pour? I think it was just over 100 yards, something like that. I could be wrong. We never saw the full tally, but I think it was like 10 or 12 trucks. And I didn't count every single truck because it wasn't nice weather. But basically, it was like, 2 trucks side by side all day, shooting concrete in there. OG's Fish Room. Than, do you plan on expanding your retail side to do fish, plants, freshwater? Plants for macroalgae, marine, maybe. Maybe even for stuff like, what do you call it, mangroves, even though I've never even ever owned a mangrove, we might consider it. Freshwater, I haven't done freshwater in over 30 years now, so probably not for me. John in 714, when do you expect or hope to be fully up and running at the new building? Don't know. Hopefully within 12 months. The breaker, 2 floors, yes. So if you look at the wall there, you can kind of see like right in the middle there, there's like a gap. That's where I'm assuming the floor is going to go. And that's going to be a big office floor. Yeah, it's going to be nearly 5,000 square feet. So like the upstairs, what's it called? There's going to be like, it's hard to describe, but there's going to be some open area cutouts. And it's going to basically separate like a front area from a back area. The back area is going to be for like more of like a recording studio, video production stuff. And the front area is going to be more towards more traditional office stuff. Yeah, that's over 100 yards and usually 10 plus a truck. Yeah, it was a lot. It was quite a lot. And that was just on the inside of the building because it's a thicker pour than what's typical, I guess, because I guess like 4 inches is a typical pour. They were going like a little over 6 in this particular floor. Passionate Reef just came in. Don't know if the question was answered, but will this new building replace the greenhouse essentially? No. We're keeping both the greenhouse and this new facility running. So this is a pure expansion on top of what we already have. Like I said before, a lot of stuff does really well out in the greenhouse. Now, there's one thing that I am considering, that if we ever do fish, it will be out in the greenhouse. And that could be like an interesting setup, but we would have to basically take down a whole bunch of systems that are already there and kind of spec that out more for fish holding. Could be interesting, but I've never done fish, and from what I understand, nobody makes money in fish. So that could be hearsay. But from everything that I've heard, fish are really difficult. I don't know, like if Eco-Marines can hop in and just say like what's her experience doing the whole fish side of things. I know a lot of people that do coral. They say, there's so much money in fish. They try fish and they try to convince me to do fish. Like, dude, you can get XYZ fish for so little and sell it for so much, and we can get them all day. And they're trying to like get me as a customer. I get that. But then within like 2 months, they've stopped doing fish. It's not that easy. So I would really, it would be a big refocus. And if I ever did fish, it would be almost more to do the search engine optimization around having reef aquarium fish and selling them just basically to break even. Than it is to try to make a profit. It would be more just to capture that mind space on the internet. But no, right now we're not looking at it. However, if I get Google Fiber to come out here, then I got some big plans. That might involve fish. That's a long-winded answer to that question. Canadian Fish and Shrimp, will you have a small elevator moving dry product upstairs for storage? As cool as it would be to have an elevator, I think that any kind of elevator like that will be absolutely just consumed by just by the air that's in one of these coral farms. So I'm probably not going to have an elevator. But the other thing is we're probably not going to have storage in this new building. Sounds crazy, but we actually have a separate warehouse for storage. So for things like salt and shipping boxes and stuff like that, we have a completely different building, unheated, that sort of thing. That's going to be kind of, mainly to hold that stuff. No need to bother the new pretty building with that. Let's see. What is your background? How do you know so much about construction? I don't think I know anything about construction. And what's in the background is the construction of our new facility that we're putting together. It's going to be an extension on the coral farm that we have here. Fishy Snowman, will you be open to the public? We're going to have visitors by appointment, but no open hours or anything like that. Yeah, and unfortunately, when it comes to construction, you kind of have to know just enough to be a pain in the butt. So, you have to be able to, figure out if something is going to be done the way that you want it. But at the same time, you don't want to just make up your own standard for construction either. There's some things that just might make a lot of sense in your head, but it's in construction, it's no, that would be terrible if we actually did that. Here's why. That would end up destroying such and such and such if we did it your way. I'm oh, I didn't realize that. So a lot of it is just kind of this conversation back and forth, and also getting them to understand what your application is. It's this isn't a regular warehouse. We're going to be doing some weird stuff in here that's going to have some weird effects on this building, and I need to know that this building can handle a swimming pool essentially getting installed in here. So yeah, and I think that's a big part of this as well. The HVAC systems on something like this, it's hard to even design around because not too many people do this sort of thing with this kind of structure. So I have to do some extra research on how much air exchange is necessary, what kind of air exchange technology is going to work year round for us, how many of these units, how to do redundancy. So if oh, your big air exchanger went down, now your building eats itself while you're waiting for a repair. Can't have that. Or, your tanks are getting too hot, then your cooling system, that fails now too. And what are you going to do? So building in redundancy, building in capacity, all this stuff, we kind of have to think ahead. And it's a lot of planning. And then, of course, there's the fun stuff of now that you have this laundry list of cool stuff that's going to handle all situations, now you get to try to afford it. And that's no fun. All right. I'm sorry this is on loop, guys. I'll make a longer video. This is a 23-minute video, so hopefully it's not boring the heck out of everyone that's watching. Sorry. Let's see. Eco-marines. Fish are hard, especially to do them well with proper quarantine, but it isn't impossible. They don't make as much business sense as corals, let's put it that way. That's kind of what I've heard. From just talking shop with other people. There's a place, I'll give them a plug. It's a place in Macedonia, Ohio here called Triton Marine. And one of the owners there, Joel, is really big into fish. And his thing was, I'm going to quarantine these suckers for 2 months and all this stuff and just do everything the right way. It's hard. He was just telling me, there's not a ton of money in fish. Just the losses you sustain. And fish die for no good reason. No good reason. I'll put a fish into a 300-gallon system full of coral, full of everything, full of rock with 2 other fish. And within 48 hours, it just croaks. And this is a fish that had been in quarantine for months at a local pet store. It's not something I just imported. So it's the heck happened here, guys? What's the problem? But I can't imagine then doing that on a commercial scale for profit, because so much losses are kind of built in there. And then, so that's why, people why is there such a big markup on fish? It's unfortunately, a lot of them die. It sucks. Are you going to replicate Apple on the second floor? Egg chairs, juice shacks? I might. I might. You know what? I am all about fresh squeezed juice, so I'm game. I could live in that world. Paul, is it 2 floors? Yes, it is. It will be. So right now, the guys had put in the ceiling. I think you saw on the earlier run. That ceiling material is going to be the wall material as well. It's that exterior smart panel siding. But once they are basically done with the ceiling. Next week they're going to start building the second floor. So that'll be kind of like an interesting process to see. I thought it would be a giant walk-in closet. Yeah, you know, I'm trimming down my my wardrobe. Like, I think I donated earlier this year about 70 or 80% of all my clothes, and then I started getting all this custom clothing made. Very happy with it. But yeah, it involved first clearing out all of my stuff. It's actually very therapeutic to just to get rid of all your stuff. It's like, whoa, you know, that stuff that I hadn't worn in 6 years. A, probably doesn't fit, and B, will probably never get worn again. Get it out of your life. Or lose the weight and put it back on, but after 5-6 years, it's not happening. How many different zones do you have in the in-floor heat? It can be tricky to keep an exact temp with in-floor heating. I believe two zones. And I'm actually not quite so concerned with in-floor heating because the entire first floor is actually just one big open room. So it's like the bigger issue is going to be like upstairs if there's going to be different pockets of heat and whatnot. That might be handled slightly differently, but at the same time, I think that the heat is going to be pretty darn uniform. I have a feeling. Yeah, like I think a lot of other people are worried about heat more than I am. I'm just coming from the world of heating a greenhouse and all the difficulties associated with that. So going from that to heating like a very well insulated space, I'm like, easy peasy. Austin, what's the cost of this building if you don't mind me asking? Dude, I have no idea. I have no clue how much this is going to cost. A lot. It's a lot. We're doing it for fun. Let's just say that. It's like, what's the payback period on this? When I die. Andrew Deutsch, Joel is my favorite. Triton Community is the best store in town. Please, I'm the best store in town. Except I'm not a store, so I guess you're right. Joel's wife is also an expert, great resource. Yeah, she's like really big into corals and into macroalgae, and I think that like we've been planning to go up there and visit them. I haven't seen them in so long. Smithy, hi Than. Okay, actually, before I hop into Smithy's question, okay, and going back to the whole fish discussion, I can order from the same place as Triton Marine, okay. Sure, it'll be cheaper. Right? Just get it direct from Triton. Or I'm sorry, I can order from the same place that Triton does because it's like a big wholesaler in LA. Fill in the blanks, you guys probably even know who they are, right? Doesn't matter. But I would almost rather go to Triton and pay retail for something I see there that I want when it comes to fish, just because I know that it's been properly quarantined and it's only like a 20-minute drive back to my place. Because getting it for that cheaper price, you can't save money if the thing dies, right? So it's like the service that a local pet store provides that actually quarantines properly is highly, highly, highly valuable. It's worth every bit of the markup that they charge, whatever that markup is. I don't even think that they're particularly unreasonable in their markup. Again, I haven't been there in a long time, but there's certain stores that are like way more expensive. So. And I know that they might not even have like the same sort of quarantine procedures. So if you find a place that does good quarantine, like trust me, support that. Because if you're thinking in your head, oh, I can just like get a business license and then just go order wholesale, it's like then you're gonna be in our boat and you're gonna see it's rough. Yeah, regulate the poo. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, sorry. So I'm going to go back up here to Smithy's. How many gallons will the new system be? Undecided. It's going to be anything from 10 to 15,000 gallons when it's all done. And we're debating on doing like multi-level tanks. I haven't decided on the layout of the tanks or anything yet. So once like the contractors are done putting in the second floor and kind of like out of our way and we're out of their way, I want to go in there and just like start stacking boxes and some laying out some tape to figure out what these things are going to look like, and then based on that, send those design parameters to some custom glass places and see what we can work out, because it's going to be a lot of tanks, so we'll see. Makes my build look like a doll's house. I know how stressful mine is, so best of luck at minimal stress. I don't think that's going to be possible. I think I'm going to be well inundated with all the stress. Bone Hunter, are Euphilia something we'll see more of from you when this place is finished? I really hope so. I never seem to see them on your site. There's a reason for that. Euphilias are rough. You know how we're talking about fish not making it importing wise? Euphilia don't ship well from overseas. So we don't bring in a lot of Euphilia. We will have some Euphilia on tomorrow's live show, by the way. Tomorrow there's a live show. Please join us, 2 p.m. There's my one plug per hour, I guess. We do have some Euphilia. Yes, they are aquacultured, but they're also relatively close to the ocean, so buyer beware. They'll probably be fine. The winter's more of an issue right now than Euphilia health. But yes, I definitely hope to do a lot more Euphilia. A Be Easy room. I don't think we have that kind of champagne room. Let's see. Somebody asked, it's like, am I married? Sound user? No. Not my thing, unfortunately. Well, fortunately or unfortunately. Not my thing. Let's see. Man, those guys are working in the snow. I think working in the rain sucks. Yeah, working in the snow sucks too. Tony S. Stan, I'm setting up a new tank, 150 gallons, considering growing out frags and then transferring colonies instead of placing frags in the 150. Well, what are your thoughts? I would be more inclined to grow the coral in the thing, in your show tank. Reason being, once colonies get to a certain size, they are kind of susceptible to changes in flow and in light, and so you might experience some die-off just from that. Let's see, Dan credit score is 2,000 buying this building. So that's a funny thing about credit scores. Like, if you have a super high credit score, the chances of you needing to get a loan are very, very, very small. And if you have a really low credit score where you really actually do need to like get a loan or something, you can't. So, I'm sorry for the folks that have like low credit out there. But if you have high credit, you have to fight off random finance companies blowing up your phone, blowing up your mail with offers, just like throwing like take our money with our janky terms, and just take our money because we want, we want all your debt. And it's like, ugh. It's like really, really skeevy stuff. So yeah, it's like once you finally have a credit rating, the last thing you want to do is go get a loan. It's like, no. Retire while you're ahead. I don't know if that's for me, but retiring might be nice. Will you get a theme fish like worldwide coral? I don't know. I probably should. I haven't thought about it. Yep, you gotta say your patented words. The whole be easy thing. I have okay, so the filthy casual. I have a hammer coral that has 3 heads. One of the heads this past week has been almost closed. I've inspected all around. I can't find nothing wrong. Any ideas? Sometimes hammers can just randomly get weird bacterial infections and just croak. Hopefully that's not the instance that you're experiencing, but sometimes that can happen. Update or go regards to Indonesia. Thank you so much. I want to visit Indonesia one of these days. I've never been. It's on my list. Now it's just a matter of convincing some of my friends to come with me to Indonesia. I already did. Than has bad credit. He's paying it off with $100,000 cap credit cards. Yeah. Well, you know what? If you ever needed to have bad credit, take on a building project like this and just run out of money and have to finish it up with loans. That'll put a dent in your credit. Actually, you know, this is kind of funny, but if you make like a huge credit card purchase, so I bought a cinema camera earlier this year, and it was expensive. That's kind of, you know, one of my vices. You know, it's like I don't drink a lot. I don't I don't do a lot of super crazy spending, but I like to spend money on cameras. So anyway, I put that on my credit card, paid off the credit card like the next day, but just for the simple fact that that thing went onto my credit card, lowered my credit score by 14 points for like 3 months. It was like just this bomb of a transaction. Okay, let's see. What's my favorite soft coral? I don't think I have one. So if all of my what do you call it, customers were kind of like amalgamated into a single customer, I know what their favorite soft coral is. It is hands down Red Sea pulsing xenia, and it is not close. That's your favorite coral, period. That and eagle eyes. Are look downs expensive in the US? I don't know, and I would pretty much not recommend anybody actually buying a look down. Um, they get ridiculously massively huge. And I know that they're captively bred and everything. I just don't think people realistically have the tank to support fishes like that. I already did that. I bought a Masterflex pump last night. Do you have any experience using these pumps? No, but here, hold on. Let me search real quick. Oops. I think it's okay. Nope, that's not what I was thinking. So unfortunately, no, I've not used anything like that. They might be good. It looks good. Yeah, Zini is amazing. Yeah, it's very very popular. What's your pride and joy coral SPS, and will it be on sale tomorrow? It might be. Ben did all the selection of corals, but if you find a rainbow Montipora, you should buy it because we're probably not going to be selling very many more. That is my favorite SPS right now. It's not that uncommon necessarily. It's just awesome. So it's starting to get warmer out, and like we got a new roof put on my house that's like a metal roof, and so I'm not used to like sheets of ice coming off of this thing just yet. It's like, so sometimes just I've lived here for like over 10 years, and so like all the sounds are now different because we have a new roof. I'm currently trying to swallow my grandma's teeth, which I found in the bathroom. Am I a weirdo? No, you're just on meth. It's perfectly normal. Just go with it. Just seeing if I missed anybody's other comments. All right. Rainbow Monty it is then. I'll be waiting. Yeah, that's definitely a good one to get. Like, as far as Montipora go, I think that there's there's a lot more expensive ones. Like a lot of the different types of palawanensis and certain ones like the beach bum and stuff like that that are like the weird creamy pastel-y colored ones. But when it just comes to like ridiculous crazy color for the price, it's hard to be like a true rainbow Monty. So you have to understand, okay, the whole meth comment. I live in Ohio, and if you know anything about Ohio, it is like low key the painkiller slash meth capital of the U.S. Like if you ever just desire just to listen to like a police blotter or anything like that, it's like, oh my gosh, everyone's on meth here. So there's that. Time for a moderator. CJ, do you want to be a moderator? Here, let me hook you up. Don't make me regret this, CJ. All right. Okay. What's a good website to get a big clam? Somebody else is going to have to help you out, Daniel, because I don't know of a good website to get clams. I can give you some general guidelines. Larger clams are probably going to be easier to keep alive than smaller clams. If you find some site that's selling like itty bitty tiny baby clams for cheap, those tend to be the most difficult because they are less, I guess, dependent on light and more dependent on phytoplankton and feeding. The larger ones get almost none of their nutrition from phytoplankton and just consuming. So they really just require like a good dose of light. But and they tend to be a lot less sensitive than a smaller clam. Now, having said that, there's certain geographies that have like great looking clams, but for some reason they just don't do particularly well. So it's kind of tough to say, and I really don't know why like a lot of clams struggle, but they struggle like crazy for us. And if you saw this vacation video I took for like a couple years ago maybe, where I was in Okinawa, like right outside of our hotel during low tide, you could find Maxima clams, and they're completely exposed. There's no water on them. They're just like sitting right there, just basically in the ground, and they're not even closed. Like they're just wide open as if they were underwater. They didn't care. And then it starts raining, like fresh water gets all throughout these clams. They don't care. They're still wide open. They didn't even close. Like I'm being bothered by the rain, and these clams aren't. A couple hours later, the tide comes back in, and the clams are fine. I put them in my tank, dead. They hate everything about the way that I do it. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe somebody else has a good source of clams. I'm the wrong guy for that. Will we be seeing more LPS on the live auction than what's on the site? So the thing about our site is that I think it has a very, very small reflection of what we actually have in inventory. You will probably see more just for the simple fact that tomorrow, assuming that we put up about 250 corals, that's close to the entire website. So you're going to see like a whole bunch of different stuff. New building is huge. That's going to be awesome. Thanks, Reef Dudes. Yeah, it's going to be big. I'm just kind of like taking it all in and just seeing how it ends up. Just kind of going with the flow on this one. What's the best way to treat bacterial infections for corals? Is there a dip that I can use? Probably the thing that I can recommend that's going to be the most, I guess, broad covering. It's going to be like an iodine solution, something like Lugol's. You can make a solution, and I think it's like 40 drops per gallon of Lugol's iodine. And just a short dip in that, like every day for a few days, can sometimes help. I have a tank that cracked in the garage and still has the old sand in it. Is there any danger in using the sand in my new build? So Mandrake says ditch the sand. I don't know, you could probably clean it. It could probably be used. Then again, like sand is pretty cheap. So I mean, if you didn't want to take the risk, but I mean, giving it a good rinse, even like stripping it a little bit with like a mild acid, even. I mean, it's supposed to dissolve, but just hitting it a little bit isn't gonna hurt too bad, and just kind of giving that a good flush through, making sure that there's nothing like just black and sulfur ridden. You want to obviously avoid some of that. Okay, so once again, last time I'm going to mention it. Live show is tomorrow. I hope many of you guys can join us. It's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern, and it's probably going to go for a good 3 hours. So hopefully everybody marks it on their calendar and are subscribed to this channel and has hit the bell. So here's the thing, okay? Let's say, for example, that you are not subscribed to this channel. And let's say you don't even like my channel. Go ahead and subscribe anyway, because that doesn't really do anything. The real subscribe button is the bell. If you just want to do me a solid and just hit the subscribe button, trust me, it's not going to bother you. Chances are you're not going to even see a notification from me. The way to see notifications is that bell. So if you do like the channel, please support it by just hitting the bell. You don't need to do super chats or anything like that, but just hit the bell. All right. So anyways, last set of questions, and then we're going to bounce out of here. Any experience with white slime? Afraid not. No, that's a new one. What are your thoughts on catching baby fish into cages, dragging them near humans, growing them, and then eating them? I don't know. I'm so useful so far. The cost to ship the sand makes it expensive. Yeah, but you know, strangely enough, I was looking at some wholesale pricing on stuff like rock and sand, and it's actually super cheap. So if you have somebody that can make a wholesale order, and you go in on it with like your reef club locally or something like that, it could make sense, because it's like it's orders of magnitude less expensive when you buy that stuff in bulk. So, all right, guys. I think we're out of here. I need to go. I need to get something to drink. My throat is killing me just in time for, I lied, live sale tomorrow. So that's all, guys. Hope you guys have a good rest of the day Friday, and leading on into a good weekend. So I'll see you later. Bye-bye.